Today I've got a classic game for you, Necrons versus my old gaming buddy and his Blood Angels, and it's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this battle report. Right, today I'm playing against my old gaming buddy and his Blood Angels. This is going to be a 1500 point battle report. My buddy hasn't played for a very long time, since the beginning of 9th edition. He's been a bit ill, and to be fair, this illness isn't going to go away, and it does affect some of his thought process. So today we just wanted to play a game and roll some dice and have some fun. I wasn't sure what to expect when I turned up at his house, but my army list was based around units that I haven't played before. Originally, I thought I was going to be up against the Orcs, but he was actually playing Blood Angels, which is the army I've played against the most against him. So we managed to set the terrain up in the new 9th edition style with 6 obscuring pieces and 4 dense cover pieces. And actually we're playing on my old gaming table here, where you can see I've got the borders going around to make my 6x4 table into a smaller board. So that is the terrain all set up. Now in terms of my list, I'm playing units which I know my buddy hasn't seen before. I had no battle plan for this army. I just randomly selected units that I knew my buddy hadn't seen in action before. I had Anrakur the Traveller with 19 Gauss Reaper Immortals. I had 6 Skorpek Destroyers with a Skorpek Lord, 2 Doomstalkers and the Void Dragon. In reserve I had my 2 recently painted units, my Hexmark Destroyer and my Ophidian Destroyers. My buddy actually went unbound with his army. I think he just chose some units to play. He had 3 Dreadnoughts, a unit of Vanguard Veterans in reserve, and 2 units of Terminators. He was quite happy to play one of the new Nephilim missions, so that's what we did. However, we did make a slight mistake because we randomly rolled for the mission. We rolled a 1, but we ended up playing one of the missions from the Incursion book rather than the Strike Force book. And I didn't realise until after the game. So the objectives are actually set out as if it was on a smaller table, but you know, that's just one of those things. It didn't really matter. Now whilst we had quite a lot of obscuring terrain, we did have a bit of a firing lane going right down the middle from the deployment zones. We probably should have turned those pieces of terrain around, but we didn't. I deployed my first unit, putting my warriors and Anrakur in the middle of those 2 obscuring pieces, the idea to go forward onto the objective. My buddy copied me. He put a big squad of Terminators right in the middle as well, and he said, well, I hope I get first turn. The rest of my army was hidden behind the obscuring terrain, the Skorpeks to the left, the Void Dragon to the right, and the Doomstalkers right at the back, hiding behind that piece of terrain. My buddy put his 2 Dreadnoughts and his other unit of Terminators behind the piece of obscuring terrain in his deployment zone, with the other Dreadnought in the dense cover on the left hand side. I believe the Terminator squad in the middle of the board all had Power Fists, and the ones at the back all had Thunder Hammers. I could be wrong, but I believe that's what they had. We decided to keep the mission as simple as possible, so we just played primary objectives. And in this mission it was 4 points for holding 1 objective, 8 for 2 and 3 for more. We played no secondaries whatsoever, that's all we played. We rolled a dice and my buddy got a 6, and guess what I got? A 1. So it was Blood Angels going first. Blood Angels, turn 1. In the movements phase, the big squad of Terminators in the middle moved and advanced, although they only advanced 1 inch, trying to get onto the middle objective. On the left hand side, the Dreadnought headed towards the objective on that side of the table. The Dreadnoughts behind the building came onto the objective at the back, and the other Dreadnought with the other Terminators just made their way towards the centre of the table, coming out of the building, using their terrain there to hide from my Doomstalkers. His army didn't seem to have any shooting, or at least hardly any shooting. He certainly didn't kill anything in the shooting phase. In the assault phase, obviously where he had advanced, he couldn't assault with the Terminators, and nothing else was in range. So that was the end of Blood Angels turn 1. In my turn 1, I moved the Doomstalkers forward onto the objective and so that they could see. On the left hand side, the Skorpekh Lord and Skorpex went over to that objective. In the centre of the table, my warriors and Anraker moved forward. Obviously he has Relentless March and gave them Mine Will Be Done as well. And the Void Dragon just moved forward as well so that he could get some of his powers and also his shooting off. The Void Dragon, he managed to take the Dreadnought out at the back on the objective. The Doomstalkers and the Warriors both shot into the Terminators, and I killed a good chunk of those, getting them down to just 4 left. On the left hand side, my Skorpekh Destroyers made a good long charge, got into assault with the Dreadnought, and I just made sure that I was still in range of the objective over there as well. The Skorpekh Destroyers destroying the Dreadnought pretty easily. And that was the end of my turn 1. Blood Angels turn 2. So turn 2, no points scored for the Blood Angels because of course I'm objective secure on that objective in the middle. So the Terminators moved to the central objective, and at the back there the other Dreadnought got onto the objective at the back, and then the other Terminators moved towards the Void Dragon. He came in with his Vanguard veterans and he was slightly worried about my Doomstalkers, so he actually hid them, although he did have storm shields on all of these Vanguard veterans, and I think they all had Thunder Hammers and Power Fists. It was quite a nasty unit. He didn't want to lose the unit quickly, so he hid them behind the obscuring piece of terrain there on the right. I lost 2 warriors from the shooting from the Terminators, and then in the assault they absolutely annihilated me. I lost loads of warriors, and then I actually rolled a 6 for my leadership check at the end in the morale phase, and then I lost another bunch of warriors as well. In the end I only had 4 warriors left. Okay, so Necrons turn 2, and I'm scoring 12 points here. I've got the Doomstalker on the objective at the back, the warriors taking the middle objective, and then over on the left hand side were the Skorpekh Destroyers. I fell back with my warriors so that I could shoot the Terminators, and Anraker the Traveller moved to the left hand side. I moved the Skorpekh Lord towards the Skorpekh Destroyers. He of course has the Veil of Darkness. My plan was to get Anraker the Traveller onto that objective so that I could veil the Skorpekh Lord and the Destroyers to the other side of the table. The powers of the Catan went off onto the Dreadnought at the back. I did a few mortal wounds, and then the Doomstalkers shot out the Terminators. I decided to just assault the Dreadnought rather than the Terminators. It meant that I was now on the objective, and of course the Void Dragon is very good at taking out vehicles, and that's exactly what he did. He destroyed the Dreadnought. So at the end of turn 2, the Blood Angels just had the Terminators and the Vanguard veterans left. However, they've all got very big nasty weapons, so the game was still on. I actually forgot to bring my reserves in on turn 2, but the way the game was going, I think turn 3 probably would have been better anyway, so I wasn't too bothered. Turn 3 for the Blood Angels, and in the command phase, it didn't hold any objectives, so no points. In the movement phase, the Vanguard veterans got onto the objective just the other side of that building, and then the Terminators assaulted the Void Dragon. I lost 3 wounds, and then I killed 3 Terminators. In my turn 3, I was on 3 objectives and more than my body, so I got 12 points. As planned in the previous turn, I moved Anraker the Traveller onto that objective, and then I vowed the Skorpekh Lord and the Skorpekh Destroyers over towards the Vanguard veterans. And then on the other side I deep striked the Ophidian Destroyers, and I also deep striked the Hexmark Destroyer onto the piece of terrain ready to shoot. The Hexmark Destroyer failed to do any damage, and then my Skorpekh Destroyers failed their charge. However, my Ophidian Destroyers did get in, and I managed to kill 4 of the Vanguard veterans, leaving 3 left, and those 3 Vanguards killed 3 of my Ophidians, so we were actually level on this objective. The Void Dragon wasn't as successful, only killing 1 Terminator. Of course, I'd got his living metal at the beginning of the turn, so he was up to 7 wounds. The 2 Terminators took another 3 wounds off, so he was down to 4 wounds as we moved in to turn 4 for the Blood Angels. So Blood Angels turn 4, he's securing the objective at the back with the Void Dragon, and he scores 4 points. There's no new assault, so I get to choose first, and I chose my Ophidian Destroyers, taking out the 3 Vanguards. On the other side of the table there, the Void Dragon takes 3 wounds, so he's down to 1 wound, and then I kill a Terminator in return. On my turn 4, I moved the Ophidian Destroyers over, assaulted the Terminator and managed to kill him. No Blood Angels left, 4 points to the Blood Angels, and I scored maximum points. We had a lot of fun. It's been ages since I played my buddy, and actually we did play a second game on that day. I didn't record any footage, but we played 1000 points. I dropped my Void Dragon, a Hexmark Destroyer and a Doomstalker from my list. My buddy took a different list that had some troops and a drop pod in. And we played 1000 points on half of the table. The result was pretty much the same, to be fair. After a few turns the Blood Angels were dead, but it was just so good to play my buddy again, and I'm hoping that we will play some more games and that my buddy will get back into 40k once again. Now, if you didn't see the first video about when fate happens, here is that video, and here's a video about the problems that I have when I play Richard and his Orc Goth pressure list.